Two Girls, One Pod. It's the episode with the two girls on it. I'm one of them, as usual. The other one today is Chezzi Denyer. The other half, as Grant would say, the better half of Grant and Chezzi Denyer. They were on Amazing Race last year, and if you watched it, even if you didn't watch it, you probably knew that there was quite a traumatic event that happened. So there's not been a lot of time to chat with her. We finally did, and I'm so glad we did because I adore her. And I love that she adores me. Like, we're very in sync with each other. But what you don't know about Chezzi is she has a degree in communications, in broadcast journalism and theatre media. A lot of people don't know that. You know, a lot of women that are running households, people just assume they're just mums or maybe they had a job. But a lot of these women are powerhouses in their own right, and she is one of them. She's also worked in Parliament. I really thoroughly enjoyed talking to her, and I could talk to her for days. And every time her and I do catch up, we talk and talk and talk. So you'll hear just how off pod we go, I guess. It's just like we've both forgotten that we're recording. We just talk. Did you know? Oh, what about? Oh, yeah. Which, you know, as anyone who listens knows that that's me to a T. But this is a chat with a girlfriend. So please enjoy Chezzi Denyer. Excuse me, Chezzi Denyer. Is your maiden name Rogers?
Yes. Why?
I remembered that from when I worked with your husband, and I asked him because I always want to know what women's maiden names are when they take a man's name. Why did you take it? Did you take it because you liked it better, or you're just a traditional, when a wife gets married, she takes the husband's name?
I took it because I wanted to have the same name as my kids.
Yeah, that's often the way, isn't it?
Yeah, so I didn't love it any more than my own name. In fact, I quite liked my own name, but yeah, I decided to take it so that we would all have the same surname.
I've just seen that you are becoming a medium.
Yes.
You're studying?
Yes, I've been studying since September last year. So I dabbled a little bit in it at the start of last year, just doing a couple of online courses, and I really enjoyed it. So I put my hand up to try and do the certification, which is a diploma in mediumship.
Wow, I did not know there was such a thing. Are you enjoying it?
I am loving it. I've always kind of loved that whole spiritual side of things, and I've always thought about what happens after you die and been fascinated in astrology and things like that. I think I used to talk to spirits and ghosts when I was a kid.
That's when the portals open, isn't it?
Yeah. And so my parents would say I would be out on the trampoline just bouncing around and talking to all my imaginary friends for hours and hours, and they'd say, come on, time to come inside. And I'd come in with some strange story about somebody who had died who wanted me to, you know, connect them or find their family. And these mum and dad, they just thought that I just had a great imagination. And just somewhere along the line, I just kind of thought, no, that's a bit weird and I have to pretend to be normal.
Wow, so you've always had it there.
Yeah, I think so.
And it is something you really have to tap into and get that portal to grow again.
My biggest issue is focusing, possibly because I have ADHD, which I now embrace, although when I was at school it was something that I tried to, you know, conceal and hide. But I think I struggle with focusing. So I can tune in very quickly when I am meditating and doing that most days. I'm really trying to still my mind.
Mm-hmm.
I can focus a lot easier and I can tune in very quickly and sometimes even see outlines of spirits.
Well, I'm so glad that you're doing that.
Yeah, it took a big push, I think, by a girlfriend that I lost 2 years ago. She passed away, but she's sending me signs and pushing me in certain directions. So
I didn't know it was because of a friend. I thought it might be something to do with what happened to Grant in India.
there's a lot to unpack there. So, before we went overseas, I had this very strong feeling that we were going to India. It was not a place that I had ever wanted. Like, it was never on my wish list of places to visit. I don't eat Indian food. I've just never really – I always wanted to go to China. That was a really big driving force. I've backpacked all around Southeast Asia and I just had this real connection with Southeast Asia, but not with India. And I was getting really into the spiritual and connecting with, spirits right before we went overseas. And then when Grant went down and I thought, because I actually thought he was dying, he was really unwell and, I saw his pupils went to like little tiny pinpricks and you know what Grant's like. He is forever performing. So that's just not he doesn't like to worry people. He that's just not him. So and I knew all the color was gone from his face and knowing that we were so far from a hospital.
You were in a city that was just so packed full of people.
Yeah, we were in a rural area too. So to be able to get to a hospital, and I was trying to do the sums, it just, you couldn't get there in under 20 minutes. So, and the medic had gone on to the next location thinking that everybody was, fine and about to move to the next location. So the producer and I had to do the first aid. So, but at that point where I thought Grant was dying, I just remember this feeling of, it was like all my intuition and all my spiritualness and my connection with spirit, which was very strong up to that point, just kind of went whoosh, just gone. For the first time ever in my entire life, I felt really lonely.
Wow, that must have been awful, even like to compound the situation that you were in.
Yeah, I didn't understand it, but
and have you understood it since?
I have. It's taken me probably since getting back from India till maybe 3 weeks ago. Lots of energy healings, lots of meditations, study. And I think what happens when we go through something that is so extremely stressful, we often put up, these walls and we're so focused on what's happening in front of us. And that's what I did. I just kind of blocked out everything else. Nothing else mattered except for, saving Grant's life.
The producer you had, Emma, is a good friend of mine. And, I mean, just the way she spoke about you was like, I'm tearing up again just thinking about like going through her emotion with it and just, how frightened she truly was and what was, going on and how she said, Chezzi just it was in the moment, like she had to just stay. She said she would have just been having the worst thing that could ever happen to you playing out in front of her, and she said, I'm just so glad I was there. And I listened to your podcast when you had her on, and just the way you both spoke to her, like this is something that, the three of you are bonded for life.
Absolutely. It was such a serious situation that it really needed. Emma, I think, is just such a strong, dependable, really loving, loyal person, and one of those real people, that you meet in your life and straight away this person is like an angel. Now, we only met her the day previous, I think. We didn't even know Emma, and I remember she said thank you to Grant when she first met us because Grant, she'd done work experience at Sunrise, and she said she had no idea and she made heaps of mistakes, and Grant was really kind to her.
Oh, my
And
God.
afterwards, Grant and I were like, oh, that's so nice. You know, you never get feedback like that.
Yeah, what goes around comes around as well.
So I just felt like it was just so fitting when we turned up to that leg of the race, and we were clearly very heat affected already. Some of the other teams had been lucky enough to catch the rain. We didn't get the rain. We were out playing with poo, and then missed the rain because we were in the tuk-tuk. But when we turned up and we saw her, I felt like she was an old friend, you know, from I don't know, I just feel like I knew her. So to have her beside me was meant to be. And I was looking at her face and I thought, she seems very calm. Okay, I'll be calm. I'm normally the calm one in these situations. It's normally, you know, me who's producing, and, you know, but it was so different. It was so surreal. And there was one point there where we both looked at each other, and Grant had grabbed kind of his heart and he was having a seizure, and he was grabbing at his heart, and I looked at her and we both thought, that's it, he's gone.
That would have been just...
It was terrifying. It was absolutely terrifying.
She said that he had heat stroke, and it wasn't until later that a doctor explained to you guys, I think, heat stroke is not heat exposure or anything. It's a stroke.
So I used to always say, oh, you know, they've got heat stroke, because you'd see people, they're, you know, a bit dehydrated, a bit wobbly. So when we came back from India, Grant was sick and in bed for a really long time, so nearly 6 weeks. And he couldn't have the lights on, so all the curtains had to be drawn. It was like he was a vampire. It was so strange. And it was really starting to play on his mental health. And I just started researching and contacting people who knew about heat stroke, and that's how I found the doctor who we also had on the podcast. And I ran him through the entire situation, and I told him, look, Grant's still not okay. I would do anything to get him, you know, over this. And what he said probably haunted me, you know, a lot too, because he said that given everything I was explaining to him, he was very close to death. And he believed that the only thing that saved Grant's life was the fact that I had put ice in Grant's socks and a big chunk of ice down the back of his shirt, because that was starting to try and reduce his body temperature. Yeah. I only knew to do that because I was heat affected the day before. So, but then he started to get cold, and then he started to shake. And
that's the extremities all going, isn't it? Like shutting down.
So then we had like all these Indian, actually they were the dancers coming up saying, I'm a doctor.
Yes, yeah, Emma was, I remember Emma telling me.
And I was so vulnerable at this time.
And giving him Red Bull?
Yeah.
Were they giving him Red Bull?
Yes. Give him a black coffee. And I'm saying, I was just so out of my, you know, body with fear. And I was just saying to Emma, well, this person's a doctor. We should listen. She's like, you are not a doctor. When I look back now, I think how it's just so surreal and actually so comical. But none of that gets shown, you know, on the TV show. So that was also hard to come back. I had to bring Grant back. He was broken. He was really broken. I got very sick on the plane. People wanted photos, you know, at the airport, and he was like all, you know, pasty and looking unwell. And but we weren't allowed to say what we'd been filming. Like it was hard.
How do you explain that to your children?
I didn't. I think they picked up on conversations that I'd had with Grant, and yeah, they did keep asking me. They were like, we don't want Dad to work in TV anymore if he's going to, you know, keep being sick. When's he going to be better? And, you know, that's hard to explain to your kids because they're only young.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. You don't want to frighten them.
No. But it was also a good time to talk to them about heat exposure and the silver lining, I guess, is that we had to go down a path with an integrative doctor, and Grant actually had quite a serious allergic response to mold in the cow poo, we think, which is what made him susceptible to the heat stroke, because he races cars, so he's used to heat.
Wow. Well, yeah, I'm remembering the mole thing now, because Emma said to me, Evie, you would have died. Like, you would have been the one that died. And I went, oh, and she said, no, because you have mold. I have mycotoxin exposure. Like, I can't get the mold out of my body. It's been in there for over 20 years. And it's a gene thing. There's 2 genes that one of them makes you susceptible to keeping mold in. And I have both of them. Like, one is bad enough, one or the other, but I've got both. Thanks, Mum and Dad. So that's why I have to manage my mycotoxin poisoning. Like, it's an ongoing thing.
How do you manage it? Because if you go into an environment where there is mold, does that then spike, like give you a really instant
crash? Yeah. Yes, immediately. And I go in to have pretty bad crash after that. I have had chronic fatigue syndrome because of it for the entire time. So my chronic fatigue syndrome is triggered by me being exposed to mold in any senses. So I mostly manage it with diet. That's the first thing. So I had to give up anything remotely close to having mold in it or fermented, which is, I come from a Polish, German background, French, and everything I want to eat is fermented. I had to change my whole house. I think you did that as well. Like, you had to get all the air purifiers in, and they have to be everywhere. You have it in your car as well. You have to change your water.
Absolutely. I had so many people message us about mold and mold exposure. There was a lot of people who lived in high rises in Sydney and also Melbourne who said that they have various dampness and they've got recurring colds. So we had a lot of people message us about chronic fatigue.
It's so much more important than people, and there's a lot. I bet there's people listening who'll get in touch now and say, this is happening to me. And I didn't know, but it affects every part of your life. And especially if you're young, like if it gets to a child, some people can be around mold and be completely fine. And others, well, that would have been you and Grant. You've got both your hands in the same shit.
Yeah, I remember my eyes were stinging a bit. Look, I've had bad eyes since last year, but yeah, I often will get, I'll feel allergies in my eyes, but that was the only thing that I felt. But I do remember when we pulled up to the next stage, when we saw Emma, and I looked at Grant and I thought, oh, he looks, just a bit odd. And we were watching each other very intently because the heat was so extreme. 100 people died in the same area we were in.
Like, oh my God.
Indians who live there, they died from...
Who are acclimatized to that heat.
That's right. And we weren't. We went from the coldest environment, which was Bathurst, which was in the minuses, like we were wearing heat-proof undies, straight to the hotel, to the airport, and then straight out well, there was no acclimatization period. So, but yeah, we watched each other intently, and I remember looking at Grant thinking,
yeah, he doesn't look right.
Yeah. I had real serious eye issues at the end of last year until we were able to speak about The Amazing Race, because I literally held back tears, I think, for months in not being able to talk about it. It was like a manifested blockage.
It is. It's a somatic response to you holding that in. Isn't that amazing what your body can do?
I know.
I want to also talk about the fact that you used to be a journalist.
Yes, a terrible journalist.
Because you're too empathic?
Yeah. And I never ever watched the news and thought, yes, that's what I want to do. I liked TV and I liked entertainment, but when I went to university, I auditioned to get in because I wanted to do acting, I thought. So I auditioned and got in out of 5,000 people into theatre media, which was a really hard course to get into. But when I was in theatre media and doing circus skills and all this stuff, juggling, I was like, well, this is not what I want to do. Like, I want to learn entertainment or media production or something. So I ended up crossing over and doing journalism, broadcast journalism, but they were really different to me because they took themselves very seriously, because journalism is a very serious profession.
Yeah, that would have been hard, a little bit of a fish out of water around such serious people, because you're not like that.
No. So they, you'd go around to the circle and they'd say, okay, I want to work for Foreign Correspondent and I want to work for Radio National and I was like, I'd like to be on Channel 10, maybe to work with Jess Rowe. And they all looked at me like, what? So, yeah, I was a terrible journalist. And then my heart was never really in it. I wanted to do the colour stories, but somebody was always sick. So I always had to go and do like a real news story. And I saw my first dead body, I guess, which really affected me. I was very young. I was about 19 and a half, and I saw a baby had been kind of thrown out the windscreen, and I was the first person to turn up, and I was not equipped to handle that experience.
No one is, but a 19-year-old and a baby.
Yeah, it really stuck with me, and there was 3 things that happened all in a very short period of time. I had to do a death knock. That's where somebody has passed away and you've got to be the first person to knock and try and get an interview with the family.
Right.
Again, didn't want to do that. Made me feel really sick.
Yeah, there's a certain type of person that's okay with doing that, isn't there?
Yeah, didn't want to do that. Ended up being so affected by the grief that I walked into, and they were good country people, and it was just heartbreaking. And I ended up saying the eulogy at their daughter's funeral. So that's not what journalists do.
No, yeah, you're way too empathic for that job.
I tried to act like I was tough and that I could, just carry on, and because it's it used to be like a real men's industry, and so the women had to be harder. And so, in order to play in that space, I've had to pretend that I was built that way, but I wasn't, and it all came unraveling later. And I had this big kind of journey with post-traumatic stress, which I didn't even know, what it was, but couldn't sleep for a period because I would see these images, and then, and I've had to do a lot of counseling over the years and a lot of healing to really try and heal that side of me, because for a long time I couldn't talk about it. But I think it's really important to talk about.
But it's good that when you know and you realise and you can be on the other side and you can talk about it, especially in situations like this, because there are people listening, and there could be young ears listening as well who might be going through something similar. But you ended up going into producing, didn't you?
I did. So I worked at Prime in Orange, and then got kind of headhunted to go and work for Kerry Chikarovsky, who was the leader of the opposition New South Wales Parliament in Sydney. So I was like, yay, I don't have to do any more death knocks. Hooray, I'm going somewhere fun, smack bang New South Wales Parliament. So my soul slowly died there while I was trying to pretend to, to again, be serious and work in politics. And then I was trying really hard to get into TV after working in politics for 2.5 years. I just felt like that was where I needed to be. And I had worked in Parliament with somebody called Morgan Ogg, and he used to work at Channel 10 for a long time, actually, and then Channel 7 as the police reporter. Then he became the chief of staff in my offices. And I used to say to him all the time, I want to get back in TV. And he would. Anyway, I left Parliament. I went back to Prime to do a very short stint, and Morgan died.
Oh.
And I just got a phone call that really floored me because he'd just had a heart attack. I think he was 40 or 41,
Oh,
like
my
too young.
God.
Really shocked me. And it was either the night before his funeral or the night after, and I was really upset. I'd driven down, I'd cried. The Scientist, by Coldplay kept playing, and it just was this really like weird feeling. But he appeared in my dream and he said to me, "Mate, I've got you a job in TV. I told you that we'd sort it." And I was like, "What? This is so bizarre." And I remember waking up and telling my parents, I said, "Oh my God, my friend Morgan." And I'm sure my parents, God love them, they always heard me say very left field weird stuff. And so they probably didn't even take any notice. But a few hours later, the chief of staff from Channel 7 rang and he said, "Hi, it's Lloyd Jones here. We've just found your CV. I don't know, it was hiding behind some others.
Oh, my God.
Do you want to come down for a job?" Yeah, I know. It's like it
Morgan
was just so surreal.
made that happen.
Yeah, so I went down and did an interview and got the job and started on the Channel 7 news desk the following week. And I loved that, but I saw all the Sunrise people having lots of fun, and that's where I wanted to have fun. And then one day somebody said, "Can you come and fill in?" I was like, "Yeah, sure, I'll fill in for producing." And I just kind of fell into it that way. And worked my butt off as a producer.
And that's how you met your husband.
Yes, but we didn't like each other when we first met.
Grant said that you were just, colleagues, and then you were all on location, like staying in accommodations and things, and then everyone was having drinks, and you all there was a prank or a game or something where you had to try to give each other hickeys.
Oh God, I forgot that. So I never used to drink while I was working because I have a tendency to become very boisterous.
Yeah.
I'm a girl from Bathurst and I also had ADHD, hyperactive. So whenever I'd go filming, I would say, no, I can't drink. Now, on this one particular night, I don't know what happened, but Grant and all the crew, and there was a big crew because we were doing a big OB, so we're doing a live show. They were saying, "You got to come and have a drink. Just have one drink. So I unleashed Frank the Tank, as Grant likes to call it, and one drink led to another, and then all of a sudden I thought that it would be a really good idea to do a hickey game where you, that I learnt at school. This is why I don't drink.
Yeah, because you're the one that came up with the game. Yeah.
That's right.
I love it.
So giving everybody, like you squeeze your chin and give people a hickey on their chin, right? Looking back now, a terrible game to play when you're about to have a whole lot of people on air the next day, but it was hilarious. And we were doing, this game, and I just remember looking at Grant and his face just was like in awe, I think, of my naughtiness that nobody had seen before.
Yeah, saw another side of you. Saw you completely differently.
Yeah, and our hands kind of brushed, and he tells the story that he knew straight away, I can't live without this woman, and I felt something, but I freaked out and was like, "Whoa, that's not meant to be."
Because I've heard him say it, and he said that it was like chemistry.
Yes. So then I did everything I could to run away from him, including eventually like leaving Sunrise and moving back to Bathurst and selling cars for a bit. And he did everything he could to pursue me and to hunt me down because he'd never experienced that before. And I think I probably did too, but I didn't. I was in denial.
But it was too big to run away from too.
Yeah.
Well, and you're still together to this day, so it was meant to be. 3 children later.
3 children, 14 years of marriage, together for 17 years or something, yeah.
That's amazing. You've got such a beautiful relationship, the two of you. I've worked with Grant and I've had you down as well when we were working together. It's just such a beautiful energy when I was around the two of you. You're just such warm, welcoming genuine people. Like, talk about being authentic. The two of you are very authentic, and the way it's almost like you're in sync with each other.
Yeah, we used to joke that perhaps we were brother and sister at one point because
maybe
there was a lot of similarity.
You've definitely been together in the past. Who knows what that relationship was?
Yeah. Yeah, I've seen Grant in a past life healing. So, I think you're right. I think we've kind of grown up together and we've been through so much.
Yeah.
So very early on with him breaking his back and me, having to nurse him, and that, for whatever reason, the universe put us together at that point. And we've had a lot of ups and downs. Prefer the quiet life, hence we live in the country. But for some reason, drama just has liked to follow us a little bit sometimes.
Well, they say you don't get what you can't deal with. So that's what they say. I don't know. Like, I think the more you get, the heavier it gets. But where you live is so beautiful. That house, every time I watch your or Grant's stories, like, just the glass.
Yeah, it's really special. I've had a lot of friends come and stay, and I don't know, it's got like a really nice feel, a real restorative feel, and that was really important because Grant, and I say it all the time, Grant's really shy, and so when he has to next level stuff, it takes a toll on him. I'm a bit more of an extrovert, so I can talk all the time, but he's shy and he's, low energy. So the persona that he is on TV is very draining, and he needs to come and have, a hideout.
Oh, wow. We've run out of time. God, I could talk to you for hours.
I know. I forgot we were recording.
I know. Yeah, me too. That's when you know it's going well. We're just two chicks having a chat. Thank you so much for coming on and just being so vulnerable with your stories. I'm really glad you share this stuff, not just with me, but with so many people, and that, you're moving into a role of mediumship. I can't wait to follow this journey on Instagram, Facebook, all the things that you're on. Thank you.
Thank you.